Hello and welcome in.
Please do not leave your luggage unattended on the station.
Welcome to the show.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Off Court. I'm your host, Liv Moods, joined again by the wonderful Ruben. How do you say your last name?
Villalobos.
See, that's why I just say Ruben, because I don't want to ruin it. It sounds so beautiful when he says it, and I would totally make it not sound as beautiful.
You could just call me, you could just translate it and call it House of Wolves. I think that sounds kind of cool.
That's your last name,
Yeah.
translated?
Yeah.
That is so
It's either
cool.
House of Wolves or Village of Wolves, but I think House of Wolves sounds kind of cool.
Wow. I love it. I love it. That's super cool. Mine's just Moody, which is very fitting for me because I am a very moody individual. We've got a lot of things to talk about. First of all, this show is now presented by The Baking Room. I have not had the honor of going down there and trying out this wonderful bakery, but one of Guerilla Sports' very own, Chloe, she runs our social media. She's extremely talented. We really would not survive without her. Her father opened this bakery down in Denver. I have not had the honor yet because I was just out of town this weekend, but you said you stopped by.
Yeah.
How was it?
It's actually not Denver. It's actually out east in Aurora.
Oh, Aurora. My bad.
By, it's over by like Montview, like East Montview and Peoria. And I went there on Saturday and I got myself like this big old bread of, they call it the country sourdough.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Phenomenal. Crispy on the outside. Super soft in the inside, and I got they actually sell like cream cheese, and I got this like jalapeno cream cheese that they make there in house.
Phenomenal.
Fire! Let me tell you, you got to go to the Baking
Phenomenal.
Room. It's not just because they're sponsoring us or whatever, but they're actually super legit. You got to go get some bread.
I love it.
Super
And
fresh.
honestly, I would argue that sourdough is the most elite bread out there.
It's great.
Yeah, sourdough is one of my favorites, so I will definitely be going there. We also obviously have to talk about a very sad topic today. A Nuggets legend lost. First of all, a legend in the NBA, period.
Yeah.
A legendary center in this game. If you know, you know, but also a Nuggets legend in Dikembe Mutombo. Passed away at the age of 58 due to brain cancer. And this was the first Denver Nugget to have their jersey retired in the Pepsi Center. What was once the Pepsi Center, now Ball Arena. And the infamous no that we still see across the league being used by players, obviously, is a Dikembe special. And he was a special person, special player, did a lot in the community as an NBA player, which, again, you just fall in love with these athletes because of their game, their style of play, what they've done for your team or your franchise. But when they're even better people off the court, it makes days like today just feel somber and sad and difficult. But I do think it's important that we spend a second just talking about the legend that he was, you know, just not, like I said, not only as a basketball player, but just as a human being.
And I personally didn't grow up watching him, and it kind of sucks that I was like 4 years old when he was with the Nuggets, right? But despite all that, you as a Nuggets fan, you kind of grow up knowing about Dikembe Mutombo. Like,
Of course.
As soon as I kind of got into, started watching Nuggets and stuff like that, his name always came up and anytime you would go to the store, his name is on the jerseys and stuff like that. So he's always been part of this Nuggets organization, whether he's just a legend. And
Absolutely.
it's super sad that
I think we run into this a lot. Where athletes just feel untouchable. You're just, I don't know what it is, but I think every person has their form of a hero, right? I obviously, being a sports watcher and a sports lover, a lot of times those are athletes, they're in the best shape and they've got the best resources and,
best diets and all this.
They take care of their bodies so well that you just kind of are under this assumption that they're untouchable and they're going to live forever. And so when you lose these legends like a Kobe, Dikembe is another example. We've lost legends in this league, and it doesn't get any easier. It definitely feels very, I don't know. It's a tough pill to swallow. So yes, Nuggets legend will be forever missed. And I think that he really did kind of change the game for this Nuggets team, but also across the league.
He made shot blocking like really dynamic and cool, because he wouldn't just block you, like he would just like volleyball slam that, and then he would give you the finger wag. No,
yeah.
Not my like he just even his voice is just so iconic. It's just such a sad day to see him not
No, it really is.
It's just sad.
And I can hope, you can only hope and pray that he died peacefully with loved ones all around him. And, you know, I've never had to deal with a family member that's had brain cancer or cancer of any kind, but I can imagine it's probably been a long, he's probably been privately battling this in so many ways and not sharing it with everybody. And I'm sure it's been very difficult. So praying for healing for his family and all of the players that were his former teammates and all of the things. So Nuggets legend, no, will live on forever. And the game has definitely been changed because of Dikembe, and it will be forever changed by his.
I'm sure the
style.
Nuggets are probably going to do a tribute video.
I would imagine.
Just either somewhere along the line this season, and I'm definitely going to shed a tear because the dude's legendary. Whether you got to see him or not.
I get emotional over anything these days. So yeah, I will definitely shed a tear watching that. But speaking of the Nuggets will be traveling to Abu Dhabi here shortly if they haven't already left. I don't think they have. I think they're leaving soon because they do play Friday. And the exciting piece about them playing on Friday, and we'll have another off-court show same time on Friday to talk about it in a little bit more detail, but would you say, Ruben, try to remove your bias? I know it's very hard to do sometimes as fans of this game and fans of the Nuggets. Could you argue and make a case for the best team in the West and the best team in the East being the Nuggets and the Celtics that we will see play on Friday in Abu Dhabi?
Yeah, I mean, to start the year, they're still the two best teams. Even Jason Tatum himself said he thought the Nuggets were going to be his opponent, you know, in the finals. And a lot of people still believe the Nuggets are still a top echelon team. So I don't see why that should be disputed. I mean, I get that the Nuggets got bounced in that second round, but
we all saw it.
We all saw it, but we all felt like they could have beat Dallas, and everyone outside of Denver still said it would have been a much better finals had it been the Nuggets and the Celtics.
So one thing I'm taking away the most by some of the clips that we've gotten from practices, from media day, from the addition of Russell Westbrook is it seems like this team is a little bit more dialed in. I think that this team got challenged in ways last year that they hadn't been challenged with before, which is you get to the top, and what's harder than getting to the top is staying at the top, because everybody else in the Western Conference got better, got stronger. And that was last season. Last season, everybody got better and stronger. And we're even seeing moves being made. We have not yet talked on an off-court show about the Karl Anthony Towns trade. Karl Anthony Towns is headed to New York. DiVincenzo and Julius Randle headed to the Minnesota Timberwolves. Now, this is not going to be a show where we just sit here and talk all about how the Nuggets won the Timberwolves trade. Do I think that it helped the Nuggets in some way, shape, or form? Yes. Do I think it made it easier for the Nuggets? Absolutely not. The Western Conference is stacked. I think it's going to be a bloodbath this season. And I do think we need to spend some time, Ruben, talking a little bit about losing Karl Anthony Towns is going to make a difference. But I think more importantly than that, you mentioned before the show when you and I were just chatting, it felt like this Timberwolves team was finally clicking. We were finally seeing some chemistry with this unit, and it's now been changed. What are your initial thoughts seeing that
Well, this
trade?
is what year 2 with the Rudy Gobert thing, right? And first year was a little wonky. Year 2, you beat the Nuggets. You have great continuity going. And it's almost like they went the opposite direction of what the Nuggets do, right? They continue to sign their players. They continue to trust them. But I wonder if something happened behind the scenes where there's maybe some disgruntledness from Karl Anthony Towns. I don't think so, because he seemed to be really sad about the whole move.
Doesn't it make you wonder? It's so funny because one of the first things my brain thought was, DiVincenzo, why would you? He was one of your best shooters last year. He was showing some serious promise. He was clutch in a lot of games for this Knicks team. We were going to see the Nova Knicks. There finally felt like there was this moment where the Knicks could really be a powerhouse. And I'm not saying that they still can't be. I think Karl Anthony Towns will be a wonderful addition once they find that chemistry and develop that chemistry as a team. But DiVincenzo to me was very impressive last season. So it immediately makes you go, what the f- were they thinking?
Like both teams.
But then I see it. Then I see some articles and some things where DiVincenzo was told, and I don't know how true this is. This is just a report that I saw, that DiVincenzo was maybe told that he was going to have a less of a role. You know, his role
Oh.
was going to be a little restricted, and he didn't want that. So then it makes you wonder, okay, did DiVincenzo say, if you're not going to play me the way I know I deserve to be played because of what I did last season, then send me somewhere else. So then there are so many things that go into these trades and these conversations. It's a business at the end of the day, but it's not just a business for the team. It's also a business for the players. So with DiVincenzo, if there was expression by him of, you know, I don't want a restricted role on this team. I know what I deserve because I was one of your, outside of Brunson, one of your best shooters last season. I deserve a big role on this team. And if he wasn't going to get that and he wanted to leave, I get it. You know, the Knicks made some offseason moves themselves prior to this trade where, you know, they may have already had in their head what that starting five was going to look like. And if DiVincenzo wasn't getting what he felt he deserved, maybe he expressed that he wanted to leave. And we know with Julius Randle, unfortunately, I have what I would consider maybe a hot take because I've seen so many. Julius Randle to me is a very polarizing player. I get that he's an injury liability. I get that he's not getting any younger, but to me, he is still a good player. And I think that this Knicks team could have done some serious damage in the postseason last year had Julius Randle been healthy and been able to play. So it does make you wonder, you know, is he just too much of an injury liability that they said, you know, we need a big that we can rely on that's actually playing? And I get that.
Yeah. But
you got to be able to play.
But Karl-Anthony Towns kind of also has that same stigma too of like, it's almost like they're almost the same player.
Yeah.
In a weird way. Like they both love to shoot the three. They both kind of play the post, but I don't know. It's almost like a trade for trade in a weird type of way. But also it makes you wonder what New York is going to do because there's been a couple of rumors that they're trying to move Mitchell Robinson. And so are they going to move Karl-Anthony Towns to center or are they going to keep him at power forward? So now it seems like New York is still going to do a couple of moves to, I don't know, maybe balance out their cap sheet a little bit more, or it's just a little interesting to what they're going to do.
One of the bigger takeaways I had too, just before I could even like really digest what the trade entailed and how it was going to affect New York and how it was going to affect Minnesota, one of my biggest immediate reactions was, why so late? Training camps start today. Like, this was a trade that was made very late in the game, in my opinion. You know, it's media day for teams all across the NBA starting today. Obviously, the Nuggets had to do theirs a little bit earlier.
Cat just took his Timberwolves picture. Like, how
and
awkward
that's
is
what I'm
that?
saying. It's just it's such a late. It's a late move to make, and I'm not saying it's a bad one necessarily, but with training camps and media days happening this week, it just felt like that was such a spur of the moment, unexpected. You know,
well, I wonder.
I don't know.
Well, Charlotte had to be the third team on that whole to make it all work. So I wonder if they were just waiting for that third team, or it just took too long to kind of get the numbers right.
Fair. Because
sometimes some of those three team deals take quite a long time, and maybe that's why we're seeing it just now. But if you're New York and the Timberwolves, I mean, I know it sounds a little bit late, but you might as well do it now, as opposed to like middle of the season where some teams tend to do it and then all of a sudden they have to kind of readjust after the trade season is over. So it sounds a little late, but if I were New York and Minnesota, I might as well just do it now.
Stuff. Yeah. And I think it's very easy as a Nuggets fan to just immediately jump to, oh, this is so great for the Nuggets. And in so many ways, it could be. It really could be, because we know that just because you make a roster move, it doesn't mean it clicks right away. We don't know how Russell Westbrook is going to actually look on the floor with this team. We'll get a glimpse of that in Abu Dhabi, but we don't actually know if that's going to click right away, or if there's going to need to be a grace period where we give them, you know, some time to adjust and figure out what it looks like with these new additions and these new pieces. CB also has not been in the starting lineup before. And if that's who we decide to go with, that's going to be an adjustment as well. So every team is going to go through that little trial and error period. You know, OKC made some really great offseason moves, but we haven't seen that produce in the regular season yet. We don't know what that's going to look like yet. So it's very easy to jump immediately to, this benefits the Nuggets so greatly. Oh my gosh, what a steal for the Nuggets. But I do want to bring something up, because I don't know. Again, I know that he's an injury liability. I know he's not getting any younger, but let me just read to you really quick. Okay. Karl-Anthony Towns versus the Nuggets. In his career, in his last 5 games, against the Nuggets in his career, he has averaged 16.6 points, 9.6 rebounds, and 3.4 assists. We also saw him.
Was that regular season?
start to figure out. It just says in his career.
Oh, okay.
This is versus the Nuggets the last 5 games. So I don't know if it's the regular season.
Because
5/10/2024. So no, that wouldn't have been. Wait,
no, because I think of the playoffs.
May 10th was the first one.
Oh, okay.
Was that playoffs? No, playoffs we played them in June. So no.
Yeah. Okay.
Maybe it's including postseason. But either way, 16.6 points, 9.6 rebounds, 3.4 assists. There's obviously X factors that go into that, playoffs versus not, regular season, whatever. But Julius Randle versus the Nuggets in his career, in the last 5 games in his career versus the Nuggets, 24.6 points, 8.4 rebounds, 6.0 assists. So the misconception of Julius Randle being a downgrade. Now, in some ways, he may be. He is, again, injury prone, not getting any younger. I still think Julius Randle knows how to hoop. I don't know why there is this misconception across the league that Julius Randle, is he in his prime? No, but I do still think he can be important to this Timberwolves offense.
I think so too. Also, keep in mind his tenure in New York, he had been the most consistent player, maybe not health-wise, but he's averaged over 24 points a game. I think the only down year he had was like the year after, it was like 2021, 2022, after the COVID year, which is like a weird year.
Right.
His average dropped to 21. And then after that, he continued to over 24 points. That's the complete opposite of what Karl Anthony Towns has done since 2018 was like his highest producing number. He's had a regression of points per game up until now. So maybe that could be a factor of why Minnesota decided to move away from him. Is like, this dude he's not producing the same level as he was 2018, 2019, 2020. He's actually regressed. He's now averaging less than 22 points per game.
Right.
That could have maybe been a factor.
Well, and last season it got better for Karl Anthony Towns, but what we saw the season prior to that was foul trouble liability. I mean, you didn't know if he was going to even be able to play a full game of basketball. Yeah. So that was a constant factor that I think was contributing to his production. Like, you can't produce if you're on the bench in foul trouble every single game when it matters. But again, there is that concern for me. If I'm a Timberwolves fan, it felt like this Timberwolves team, despite the Dallas series, was finally starting to click.
Yeah.
And now you've changed that.
Yep.
It does make you wonder what kind of stuff is happening on the back end, what kind of conversations, what does the culture look like with Karl Anthony Towns in it? Because I felt like this was finally, they were on the path to just keeping your head down and staying focused and starting to see the results and benefit from the results of that.
Some people did bring up the Dallas series, but the first 3 games, Karl Anthony Towns, I think he had like 16 points. And then the final 2 games, he went off for 28, 25. So it's not like you can say he had a bad series. I mean, granted, people like to put specific blame on one player. I don't think that's necessarily fair. But hey, who knows? Maybe just the Timberwolves in general just wanted to kind of do what the Nuggets did. Pump in something fresh, something new, a new perspective,
hit the refresh button,
the tenure with Karl Anthony Towns that maybe had run its course and it just became a little sour. And Tim Connolly trying to maybe create some new magic. There's just a lot of things behind the scenes that we just don't really get to see, but it just brings up a lot of questions of why and how, you know what I mean? It's
well, and why right now?
Yeah.
I could understand. Yes, I do understand that the Timberwolves did not compete as well as people had hoped, especially because I felt like they had a size advantage, a physicality advantage, and then we didn't see that translate against the Mavericks in the Western Conference Finals. So yeah, obviously when you get beat that badly and you can't really do anything against a Mavs team that then couldn't do anything against the Celtics, it makes you wonder what's got to change. That's the smart response as a coach and as a franchise is something's got to change because that shouldn't have happened. However, it did feel like they were on track to start having some of that continuity benefit them in the long haul. But again, you throw a change in there, it could either work very greatly in their benefit, or it could then require another grace period of we just made some more changes and now we've got to reestablish chemistry that it
takes a while to build chemistry.
It does.
It really does
not happen overnight.
And it's not like the Nugget situation where you're bringing in Christian Braun up to, but Christian Braun has already played with the starting 5. He's had several minutes. Julius Randle has never played with Rudy Gobert, Anthony Edwards. Like he's got, so you have to rediscover that, and it's going to take a little bit of time.
What do you think Naj Reid's role will be, because honestly, he to me posed one of the biggest threats to the Denver Nuggets in the postseason. I
Yeah.
was the most scared about Reid as we entered the series against the Timberwolves because he came off the bench. He was clutch
He was an igniter.
He just
Energy
had
guy.
he had what I'm again, do not take this and sprint with it, okay? He had what I'm hoping Russell Westbrook will have, which was the effect off the bench. I'm not saying Russ is going to be draining threes like Reid or have the same defensive intensity or production as a Reid did for the Timberwolves, but I'm hoping that the effect of bringing
Just being
Westbrook
that
off the
X-factor,
bench,
basically.
just that X factor, that energy, that hey, we may be down and our starters may be gassed, but we've still got someone that's coming off the bench with fresh legs that is going to bring that intensity no matter what the score looks like. That's what I'm hoping Westbrook can be for the Nuggets. But I think that Reid is in a great position to now have a little bit more of an important role on this Timberwolves team. Or do you keep him on the bench?
Or who knows? I mean, what if his minutes diminish, right? Or what if he starts to get disgruntled because he was like, oh, they're gonna move Karl-Anthony Edwards or Karl-Anthony Towns out of here. Maybe I'll get some extra minutes, and here comes Julius Randle. So who knows? But then again, what if Julius Randle gets hurt throughout the season? Here comes Naz Reid starting, and maybe that makes Minnesota double think of, should we even keep Julius Randle, right?
Again, these are all
Create a trade piece.
questions that
there's more questions now with Minnesota than answers.
I don't think that this trade was necessarily a bad thing for Minnesota.
No.
But I do think it made a lot of things that at one point felt pretty clear now unclear. And it's like, okay, well, I get that this season did not end the way that they had anticipated it would. I think that if you can get past the Denver Nuggets, they should have been able to get past the Dallas Mavericks, and they couldn't. Some of that probably has to do with the fact that they were gassed. It was a 7-game series. They played their asses off in game 1 and 2 to steal some road games from the Nuggets. I mean, they
did look gassed against Dallas.
They looked gassed. And I think so much of that, this was also the first year where we had the in-season tournament, which felt a little different, I think, for players. We saw Calvin Booth talk about that at Media Day for the Denver Nuggets, that some of the exhaustion that he believes that the Nuggets felt, the in-season tournament didn't help that. Is that an excuse? No. When you're trying to go back to back, it's not going to be easy. And that you've got to just figure it out, put your foot on the gas and find a way. They couldn't find a way. But yeah, there's more questions now. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm not going to sit here as a Nuggets fan and say the Nuggets won that trade between Minnesota and the New York Knicks, because OKC still exists.
And they got
the West is still hard as hell. This doesn't make it an easy cakewalk for the Denver Nuggets by any means.
Yeah, I think now OKC is probably the better teams, kind of suited to not necessarily beat the Nuggets, but really give them a lot of trouble. I mean, Chet Holmgren, the times that Chet Holmgren has played Nikola Jokic, he blocked a lot of shots. And even Nikola Jokic said himself, oh yeah, he blocked quite a lot of shots for me. And he did create quite a lot of trouble. I mean, granted, Chet Holmgren needs to beef up, as Nikola Jokic would say, but OKC's young. They're hungry. They got some playoff experience finally, and they're going to be trouble for every team, not just the Nuggets. They're really going to create problems for every team in the West because they're loaded.
So I'm going to throw it back to the Nuggets game that was the determining factor of the number 1 seed, which was against the San Antonio Spurs. A brutal performance by the Denver Nuggets. I'm not sure if you guys have seen, but Victor Wembanyama has put on 25 pounds.
Oh boy.
He looks significantly stronger. And the Spurs are one of those teams that I don't think anyone should sleep on. They're going to be a
play-in team.
I promise you this. This is my biggest take before the Nuggets season starts. The West will be a bloodbath, an absolute bloodbath.
You got Memphis coming back.
I don't think there's one team right now that you can confidently put your money on to win the Western Conference, because I think so many things have to go right in order to make it all the way through an 80+ game season with the in-season tournament now as well. It's a lot on their bodies. It's a lot. The Western Conference will be an effing bloodbath this year. Victor Wembanyama got stronger,
Yep.
and he was already a freak of nature in the best way possible. The Spurs, that's a team I can't count out.
Mhm.
The Kings are another team
Yeah.
I can't
Don't
count
forget about the
out.
Rockets.
The Grizzlies, who have a healthy John Morant and just got
Desmond
Zach
Bane come
Edey
back.
as a big, can't count them out.
Nope.
The Nuggets, again, have some
Mhm.
X factors that we've got to see how it's going to work with CB in the starting lineup. What's Westbrook going to bring to the table? The Timberwolves just made some changes that could either be very great for them or cause them some problems. And we've got to now allow another grace period for them to find their chemistry. OKC did impressive things in the offseason. I mean,
Although
it is not a safe
Yeah.
world for any team in the Western Conference right now.
I think the two teams that I think are definitely going to have a down year are going to be the two LA teams.
Yes.
The Clippers and the Lakers.
Such
Lakers,
a great point.
Lakers didn't really do much this offseason.
I think the Warriors as well.
And the Warriors kind of stayed put. Oh, but who knows what the Warriors are still going to do? It seems like they still kind of want to add a few more pieces, but do they have the money for it? Do they have like the right players? I don't even think they have enough draft picks to make any
That's
sort
what
of
I'm
moves.
saying. I think that the Warriors are going to need a few years to get back to
those California teams. They're probably going to be on that bottom echelon, and you're going to have teams like the Rockets, Spurs.
Yeah, the Rockets are another
Kings,
one. Young. They've got a lot of young talent.
That they were kind of right there in the middle of the season. They were kind of, between 10 and 6. They just kept trading places here and there. And
let's say hypothetically you get a healthy Zion. We saw in that tiny little moment with Zion when he was healthy in the postseason just before he got injured. I think that game would have gone very differently had he stayed healthy throughout. So a Zion Williamson in great shape and staying healthy.
But we got to see it with the Pelicans though, because again, like you said, he is like the great X factor. But it seems like every year we're always saying like, oh, wait till Zion comes back, and when he comes back and then leaves again because he gets injured again.
His health is a pretty large factor into their success, which it's hard to have that much pressure on one guy, but it really is. That's the name of the game.
Yeah, I mean, and the only one team that I think they're just going to be bottom feeders is Portland. So they're in complete rebuild mode, but we don't have to get into them. It's like the one team I'm like from the West that it's like,
right.
Don't even mention them.
So I wanted to just spend today a little bit talking about that trade because I do think it's, we didn't even mention Phoenix. I'm not scared of Phoenix at all, clearly.
No.
I mean, I did not mention them one
They're
time.
They're trying to run it back, and I thought last year they did some solid free agent acquisitions. But it's like Kevin Durant, can he stay healthy all year? Is he going to have enough to, and Devin Booker? Are they going to, can they build off of that?
To be honest, their trades made no effing sense to me. Bradley Beal does not fix your depth or defense problem.
I never understood why they even got him.
It just was not, I'm not saying Bradley Beal's a bad player to have, but he didn't fix their particular
he didn't quite
issues.
Particularly fit because it's almost like Devin Booker, Bradley Beal are kind of like the same type of player.
It made no sense.
Devin Booker's obviously, I feel like Devin Booker's a better shooter, better all around type game. But Beal just couldn't stay healthy. And
I just am shocked that we just went through almost the entire Western Conference talking about the threats in the Western Conference, and Phoenix did not roll out of either one of our mouths, not one time.
Yeah, it's just they're just not they're kind of scary as offensively, but defensively, you saw what Minnesota did to them. Like they just went right through them.
They're not a complete basketball team.
They're not a great defensive
team. They've got
team.
a few things in there that are can be very threatening, but they're not a complete basketball team by any means. And I just think there are so many teams in the Western Conference that are figuring out ways to be complete. And it's going to be a flipping war zone in the Western
Phoenix
Conference.
made the mistake of letting go of so many draft picks, trying to get Kevin Durant.
Which I love KD, but
they kind of, I mean, I get he's KD, but they kind of,
you got to think longevity in those situations. KD he's been around this game a while. He is a legend in so many ways. I mean, you can't ever take that away from him. He's one of the clutchest players in the league. But again, did he address the Suns' issues? He was a Band-Aid over like a very large wound that I just don't think was.
Is it Frank Vogel, their coach?
Yes.
Yeah. So who knows how long he's gonna?
Is he still?
I think so. But then again, he was on a hot seat last year. So if they have another, did they get another coach?
Yeah, Mike Budenholzer, but Budenholzer. He's the newest head coach.
Oh wow.
Yeah, he replaces Frank Vogel. That was in May.
Oh wow.
He was fired Thursday after one season.
Ooh.
Yeah, Thursday in May 11th, he was fired after one season.
And so again, the Suns now have to kind of start all over again, new system, new coach. So who knows how long they're going to take to get going.
We've seen new head coaches come in and find a way.
Yeah.
There's a chance that works very quickly for them. But
I mean, they'll win some games. They'll definitely win games. They'll definitely win about 50, maybe 45, 50 wins, kind of like they did last year.
Mm-hmm.
But defensively, they're just not. They're not potent. They don't have that. They don't have a big, right? I mean, they don't have like a big dude to kind of offset Nikola Jokic or any of these other bigs. But they're just defensively, they just don't rotate over. They're not connected. They're not really. They're not built like it. They're just built offensively. And so you saw it last year you saw last year against Minnesota. They just drove right by them every time and dunks, whatever. They just got whatever they wanted off the Suns. So I'm not too high on the Suns. They're just kind of middle of the pack. Yeah. Kind of like they were last year.
I think that's exactly where they'll fall. I'm not threatened by the Suns at all. We just went through almost every Western Conference team and not one. To be honest, I forgot they were in the Western Conference as we were talking about some of the teams that I'm worried about this upcoming season. The Suns are not one of them. I think that what we're going to see from the Denver Nuggets on Friday in Abu Dhabi is them going against the best and most complete team in the East, which will be very telling about what this Nuggets team did in their offseason, how they've prepared, and how complete they will be as we approach this upcoming season. So it'll be very telling. Although it's a game overseas and it doesn't seem like a big deal, whatever, going against the Celtics is always a pretty big telling.
I wonder if Celtic fans will travel over there, because you know how they love to travel.
Oh, Celtics fans will go anywhere, I feel like. Yeah. I'm sure they've had this on their calendar for a minute.
Pretty sure. But
it'll be fun. I'm excited to watch.
I don't know if we'll see a lot of the starters. I'm not, because I'm not.
But honestly, that to me, that's fine. We need to see our bench.
Yeah.
That's been to me the problem with the Nuggets for some time. After losing Bruce Brown, it felt like the bench was just.
Love to see more minutes of just the bench.
So if we can just see a bench out there that we're like, okay, this could work. This could be reliable this upcoming season. That'll be enough for me, because I trust our starting five. I really do. I trust how they're coached. I think anytime you've got Nikola Jokic on the floor with you, you have a chance of winning it all. He's the best player in the world. So yeah, I think a bench, honestly, play our bench guys as much as possible, because that'll be very telling about the kind of success that we could potentially see this year. Yeah.
It might look a little clunky. I feel like it's going to be a little clunky, but
it's not going to click right away.
But I think just in general, just seeing them out there is just gonna start, creating a little bit of like, all right, I can see where this is going, and I can kind of see Russell Westbrook starting to kind of fit. For me, if I can see Darius Harge and Russell Westbrook starting to kind of click a little bit during those two games over there in Abu Dhabi, I think that'll be fantastic, because you need those two additions to really click to each other.
Yep.
Because you kind of want to replicate a little bit of the Jokic Murray two-man game.
I was gonna say, I want to see. In Abu Dhabi, in a perfect world, what we would see would be Russell Westbrook facilitating off the bench, Dario playing big, and he's not going to be Jokic. No one can be Jokic, but being a reliable big that can still produce offensively for this Nuggets team. And I would love to see Peyton Watson from an offensive lens, and also Julian Strawther. I think those are kind of the guys that I'll be looking out for the most in Abu Dhabi, because, it was very interesting to me that Coach Malone, when asked about Peyton Watson, talked about wanting to see some more mental maturity. Yeah. Which I found that interesting. It makes you wonder what kind of things are happening in the locker room that would make it, because I don't think I've seen that on the floor. I haven't seen that in games. I haven't seen enough of Peyton Watson to make that call.
Maybe he's talking more about like the decision making of like when you're on the floor, because there was plenty of boneheaded plays by Peyton Watson last year where he would drive to the basket and he kind of gets stuck, so I wonder if he's talking about just like the overall aspect of like, has the game slowed down for him, and making that matureness of like staying cool, staying collected, and understanding like where you should be at all times on the floor, and just kind of understanding like, because it's a read and react offense, and so you really have to be mature enough to be locked in at all times. I wonder if that's what he's talking about.
But you know what? To play devil's advocate, I don't think that you can build that unless you're playing.
Yeah.
CB, we have watched develop over
Mhm.
time because he's getting minutes. We're putting him in tough situations and
So-
allowing him to either F up or to figure it out.
Mhm.
We don't give Peyton Watson enough of an opportunity to grow. I
Yeah.
think he gets in there, he finds his rhythm and his groove. He, to me, was needed to be out there in the Timberwolves
Yeah.
series because we saw him in the regular season dominating against
Yeah.
the Timberwolves, and then we didn't see him at all in the postseason.
Mhm.
It's like, I don't know if Coach Malone is talking about wanting to see more mental maturity out of Peyton Watson, then play him. I don't
Yeah.
think you're going to see that unless you allow him to get on the floor, get minutes, mess up, and then find a way to figure it out. I don't think we've given him enough of an opportunity to show, one, what he's capable of, but two, allowed him to fix mistakes on the fly. The second he makes a mistake, we pull him and put him on the bench and you don't see him again. So
Yeah.
that's where I'd play devil's advocate and say, yeah, there was some decision making by Peyton Watson that wasn't great in the postseason, but how's he going to fix it if you don't let him play and
also,
figure it out?
you never know what he could have done if you just never gave it a chance, right? Like there was moments where
He proved it in the regular season what he can do against the Timberwolves.
Yeah, there was
He showed
moments
us.
there was moments in the playoffs where you were like, we just need somebody to do something, get a steal, get a dive for a ball. You would have never known if you would have never played him. So
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting. I think Abu Dhabi will be very telling from a lot of different perspectives. I think the biggest one will be, what does our bench look like up against, a Celtics team that's pretty complete. And I know the Celtics probably won't play all their starters either,
No.
but
they're basically bringing everyone back. Like everyone's kind of locked in for another 2-3 years.
So even that, I mean, the Celtics were deep. They knew what they were. They were a very complete,
Very well
basketball
coached.
team.
They love to spread it out. They love to play inside. I mean, they do play this very Nuggets-esque type offense where they're driving, kicking, shooting threes. They just make you work on defense.
Absolutely.
And they're not going to be any different than they were last year. But the one thing I want to say about for Peyton Watson is, has his shooting improved? Because
he talked about that at media day.
He talked about that at media day. Has it improved? Not necessarily can he make them, but like, did his release get quicker?
Mm-hmm.
And for Julian Strawther is, has the game slow down a little bit for him as well, where he's not making like mental mistakes of like driving when he shouldn't have, or shooting where he shouldn't have, or just being confident enough to just take the shot and just shoot it.
Yep.
So those are my two guys from the bench that I'm like, I want to see some improvement, and I want to see them comfortable too. I just want to see them be in themselves and just kind of understand like, hey, I've been working on this all summer. I'm just going to go out there and do it.
They have to remember that they're no longer rookies.
Yeah.
Sometimes I think they get out there and they play like a rookie, and it's like, no, you are on this team. You are a part of this team. You got to play like a starter. Even if you're not one, play like a starter. And I think that's what Westbrook will do.
Yeah.
And so maybe he can kind of be contagious in that way.
Yeah.
Russell Westbrook and Peyton Watson have a pretty close relationship.
Yeah. So
maybe some of that has already been implemented and has motivated Peyton Watson's game. So it'll be cool to see. We're very excited. This has been another episode of Off Court with Liv Moods and Ruben, and we will be back. I will be back for sure again Friday, same time, thinking around 12:30 p.m. Mountain Time, Mondays and Fridays. And whenever Ruben's here and available and wants to hop on with me, he will also be joining me. We'll be dividing and conquering the Denver Nuggets content this upcoming season. And like I said, Abu Dhabi this weekend, and then before we know it.
Do you know when that game is? At what time that game is?
The weekend one, I believe, is like 8 a.m. our time.
Oh, okay.
Because obviously there's a time difference, so it's going to be a little
cool to see a little bit of basketball in the morning.
Yeah, right? It'll be very different.
Cup of Joe and
but I think it's
Sunday
Nuggets at 8 a.m. and then I'm not sure about Friday, like
either way, I'm
our
pretty excited.
time.
I'm just happy basketball's back.
It's back, and October 22nd is opening night, so we're going to have a lot of things to talk about here pretty soon. So thank you guys for hanging with me, and if you've been on Off Court today and also on Off Field earlier, thanks for hanging with me for a few hours. I love you. I appreciate you. And we'll be back again on Friday, same time, same place, for another episode of Off Court with Liv Moods and maybe Ruben. So make sure you guys check us out. Follow us on all things Guerilla Sports and subscribe. And you can listen to the audio version of this show. We've got it all 7 days a week of sports content. Make sure you're tuning in to all things Guerilla Sports.
Don't forget about the Bacon Room. Go check it out.
That's right. Go get some sourdough.
Yeah, and they also have baguettes. Ooh, those baguettes were amazing. So please go. It's super awesome.
Awesome. We'll see you guys Friday.
Adios, amigos.